From the Rock and Mineral Kit, I've taken samples 1 through 9 out. This represents the Mohs scale of hardness. The Mohs scale of hardness, of course, runs from 1 to 10, but that 10 is a diamond, and of course we're not able to have diamonds here. So we'll be working with Mohs scale 1 through 9, and I just wanted to pull these out of the kit for you, show you other samples to give you an idea of the variety that exists between these samples. The samples in our kit are small, and so as I do these videos, I will try to provide samples from my own personal collection to give you an idea of what these minerals look like when they're a little bit larger in size. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 on the Mohs scale is the absolute softest. Now in your rock and mineral kit, you will have a sample of talc. Talc is the exact same thing that is mined and refined to create baby powder, talcum powder. With it being 1 on the Mohs scale, you can easily scratch it. So you should have no problem scratching and creating a powder with talc. My alternative sample here is the same pretty much. Now between both of these samples you can see a green tinge. Now if you're familiar with baby powder, you know that it's mainly white. But talc, it is a product of the breakdown of another mineral that is green. And that's why we see a little bit of the greenish tinge to our talc samples. So that's number 1. That is the softest mineral on the Mohs scale. Number 2 is gypsum, and gypsum is really cool. This is the same mineral that is found in your sheetrock. So this is what is surrounding you in your walls right now if you are surrounded with sheetrock walls. So this looks very similar, gypsum looks very similar to number 3, which is calcite. Now this is the Mohs scale of hardness, so this tells us that 3 should be harder than 2, and that is the case. Now there is a tool that we can use that lies directly between 2 and 3 on the Mohs scale that helps us tell the difference between these two minerals, and that's your fingernail. You will be able to scratch gypsum very easily with your fingernail, whereas for calcite, number 3, you cannot scratch it with your fingernail. So that is the very quick and easy test to tell the difference between gypsum at number 2 and calcite at number 3. Your fingernail sits neatly between them on the Mohs scale. Now here is another sample of gypsum. This is a variety of gypsum called selenite. And it is named selenite. There's a little stamp that I put on there for a previous lab. But it's called selenite for its lunar-like appearance. And then here's another sample of calcite. Now your sample of calcite may be clear, it may be translucent, or it might be completely opaque. And if your calcite is clear, you can do the double refraction test, which also helps you identify calcite. Double refraction is when you place it over a sheet of paper with words underneath, and it'll produce double the image. Number 4 on the Mohs scale is fluorite. Now fluorite is where the word fluorescence comes from, because this mineral will glow under UV light. A UV light is another tool in a geologist toolkit, because certain minerals will fluoresce under UV light and some of them will not, and it's a good identifying factor for certain minerals. So fluorite is the original fluorescer, and that is where the word fluorescence comes from. Now fluorite, your fluorite may be green, it may be pink, it may be purple. So there are multiple colors possible with our fluorite, and this is just another sample of fluorite. You can see some of the individual crystals here as opposed to the cleavage that we have in this particular sample. Now, number 5 on your list provided in the rock and mineral kit, you will see that it says apatite or triphyllite. That means you will have one or the other. Now, my sample, my rock and mineral kit came with a sample of apatite, and it's not even really a great sample of apatite as it is. You can see that there are other minerals mixed in with this one. And the reason why it's that way is because apatite is a very difficult mineral to obtain, and it's commonly so small in crystal size that you can't really even get a sample that is this size. And if you can, it's probably go into a gemstone dealer as opposed to a rock and mineral kit because they are valuable as gemstones. I do not have a sample for you to look at of apatite or triphyllite because, again, they are both very difficult to obtain. Number 6 on the Mohs scale is potassium feldspar. Your list just says feldspar, but you will more than likely have the potassium variety of feldspar. This is orthoclase. Oh no, excuse me, this is microcline. This is microcline potassium feldspar. And the way that we know this is because of that salmon color. But the microcline variety has a notably pink color. So when we get to igneous rocks and you see little pink crystals within your granite, this is that mineral. This is that potassium feldspar. So here's a larger chunk of potassium feldspar. And so you can see that we have a little bit more features and textures to look at within this particular mineral. One of the main things that you'll want to notice is how it breaks off in nearly 90-degree angles, and that is one of the key identifying factors of potassium feldspar, that cleavage. Moving up to number 7, number 7 is quartz. Now, this is a very decent sample of quartz that I have in my particular rock and mineral kit, so I hope that yours is also as nice. This is another sample of quartz that I have in my personal collection. This is how quartz grows. This sample has not been cut. It has not been faceted. Quartz does not have cleavage. So any smooth sides that you see on quartz, that is a crystal face. That is a naturally occurring crystal. It hasn't been cut or faceted. And you can see down here on the bottom of this particular crystal where it was broken off from the much larger mass of crystals, and that's where we see all of those fracturings. Now, up until Mohs 7, we will have had tools to test all of these. So we'll have a nail. A nail usually sits at about 4.5, so you'll have it between your fluorite and your apatite. A copper penny is about 3.5, so that sits between your calcite and fluorite. Our fingernail sits at 2.5. Now, at home, you may have a spare piece of glass. If you do, that would be between 5 and 6. That's about a 5.5 on the Mohs scale. And then finally, your streak plate. Your streak plate is a 6.5 on the Mohs scale. So between 1 through 7, we have all of these tools to test the hardness of our minerals. Now 7, because our streak plate is 6.5, anything 7 or above will not leave a streak. So if you take quartz and you perform a streak test, you are not powdering up the sample of quartz. You're powdering up the streak plate. And if you wipe that powder off, you will see that you have left a scratch in the streak plate, not on quartz. Okay, moving on to number 8. Number 8 is another mineral in your rock and mineral kit where you could get one or the other. And it says beryl or topaz. Now, beryl and topaz are two totally different minerals, and you will get one or the other. In my rock and mineral kit, I received beryl. So this is beryl. Beryl is the gemstone family or the mineral family for gemstones like aquamarine and emerald and morganite. So this is just a sample of white beryl, and you can see that we've got a little bit of other stuff from where the main rock this particular sample was taken from. Now, you may also receive a sample of topaz. So if you did not get beryl, you will have gotten topaz. And so this is a sample of topaz. This is a topaz crystal from Ukraine. And this is just to give you an idea of what to look for depending upon which of the two samples that you received. So that maybe can help you determine if you got beryl or topaz. Now finally, at the very top of our Mohs scale is number 9. This is corundum. Corundum in any color except for red is known as sapphire when it is in gemstone quality. So this is where we get all of our sapphires and rubies from. So it doesn't look so great in the mineral form, and that's why some of our sapphires and rubies are so rare. Now here is a raw sapphire. So this is still corundum, and it is bluish, so that makes it a sapphire. Now if this was red, this would be a ruby. So that's just a breakdown of our Mohs scale. If you have any questions, just let me know.